Hey folks, let's spend some time with some friends up north. I'm Ben Cominos from WHBY in Appleton. Joining us from WCPT in Chicago is Patty Vasquez, and from the Minocqua Brewing Company, here's Kirk Bankstead. We've got the usual suspects from our Substack page with us, as well as a special guest or two. Wherever you are, welcome, you're up north.
Here to take it away is our fearless leader, Kirk Bankstead.
Hello. Welcome, everyone, to the Up North podcast. We just were introduced by the lovely and irreverent Patty Vasquez from WCPT 820 AM in Chicago. We've got with us who looks like he's being interrogated right now in some crazy room in Appleton. We've got Ben Cominos of Outside the Box, WHBY. Ben, we'll get you in a second explaining what the hell's going on over there. And then we've got Senator Chris Larson, who's joining us from Bayfield. Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank
Ben,
you.
what the hell's going on? Tell what the hell's going on before we get launched in here.
Yeah, and I think Patty's Chicago listeners will get a kick out of this. Patty, I'm going to put you on the spot, but do you know what the Pickle Club is that was founded in Chicago in 1920, the progressive movement?
No,
where people
I don't. With my little history knowledge and Chicago love, I do not know about the Pickle Club.
Yeah, so if you guys look where I'm at right now, I'm at a local book club in the Appleton area, and they kind of started their own pickle club here a couple months ago, and they meet every third Wednesday. And I've already met some wonderful people putting together a queer clothing drive for May, and a handful of other operations. The DSA is getting a chapter here at Lawrence University. And a lot of cool things like that. So I'm just meeting a bunch of people, like-minded people, like the people that listen to this show. It's pretty neat, actually. First time here.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Way to get off that high horse from the radio station and join the people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm slumming it with you guys today. But, then I get insulted for it. So it just teaches me, right?
All right. We're already getting derailed, but we got a long show tonight. And one of the things, the good thing is that as of right now, as of this week, it seems like the resistance is making a lot of progress, and we're winning. We also have a very important date looming ahead of us, and that's April 15th. That's our tax day. And so I wanted to talk about some of the wins that we're having right now, what states should be doing to keep up the resistance, but also delve into something called tax resistance and why that is being talked about more and more in the kind of the progressive resistance kind of like independent media sphere. So, first of all, Patty, let us know about what's going on at the federal level, that some of the wins that we've had this week.
First of all, somebody's got some background noise that I've got. I don't know which one it is, because I think it wasn't Ben's. I thought it was Ben's, but it wasn't. Just there you go. Let's see. Oh, that might. Oh, look, that works. Everyone, turn your mics off when it's not your turn. With this, so the Voter Disenfranchisement Act. I'm sorry. It's the SAVE Act, which is being blocked. The Senate has still not been able to pass the SAVE Act, legislation that would disenfranchise millions of eligible voters by imposing new documentary requirements for voter registration. And they also, like, anytime you move, you have to have the passport, your birth certificate, all these elements that not everybody has easily accessible. Senate Dems are holding the line via the filibuster, with votes ongoing as of the last couple of days. There is no passage yet. So the Senate is still on DHS funding. The pressure is sustained because Democrats are holding the line on funding for Department of Homeland Security. There is some backroom deals, I think, being made. Some members are pushing to carve out exceptions. I know I heard a legislator say that they have a funding option that would still freeze funding for DHS and ICE, but they still want to demand some of those elements of taking the masks off, the body cams, the training, which is obviously vitally important considering how ICE has been acting. So don't let them make that deal, folks. Restoring TSA funding would be a carve out. That's one of the things I was mentioning, which if they make that TSA funding as a carve out, that would surrender the biggest leverage that we have. So keep calling your senators and tell them that we don't want a deal unless all demands are met. That's all I'm saying. I'm reading the right segment, right?
Everyone's going to forget they're muted the whole show.
Yeah, yes. Thanks,
No, sorry.
Patty.
Listen,
Um,
sorry.
So that's all that stuff's happening at the federal level. Ben, there are some wins. So states are what we're really focused on right now, and these guys have been along with lower level federal judges. States have really been the ones stepping up. New Mexico, California, New York, and Philadelphia. Talk to me about what's going on with those cities and states.
Yeah, they're all exciting examples in different ways. New Mexico actually relates to something I talked about on my program earlier today, highlighting that on the national scene, Democrats need to learn to be proactive and not reactive. We on this show have been anticipating ICE agents at polling places. You anticipate some kind of chicanery once we hit election day. New Mexico got ahead of the game. They said, you're not allowed to do this on the state level. There will not be ICE agents at polling places. People are going to feel comfortable when they show up to vote. That right there should be the template for any safe blue state going forward. I think everyone should follow suit. The New York and California situation, we're talking about the funding for these ICE detention centers, as well as kind of taking a chip out of the private prison industry as well, with both California and New York deciding that we are going, or those states, I should say, are intending to divest the public pensions, at the very least, from the stocks in the private prison system. So you hit them in the funding from that perspective, but you also limit the creation of these, we'll just call them concentration camps, because everybody on this panel knows exactly what it is that we're dealing with there. And then going back to my home state, Pennsylvania, although a much worse sports city, Philadelphia, we're looking at the DA, who is taking a very interesting approach to the Epstein files, holding the most powerful people on the list in this that worked in the city of Philadelphia to account. The district attorney is, that is, Krasner or Krasner. I apologize on the pronunciation. I'm not familiar. But the reason the state level thing is so important is, as we're learning with the pardoning power, the Trump administration can pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, but you can't pardon the state rulings. And if these people are found guilty of state rulings from the Philadelphia DA, there might actually be some consequences for the actions that they engaged in. And again, I don't even think that's a safe blue state decision. I think you should see every attorney general, every governor, every fill in the blank pushing for that outcome there. I don't think you'd get any pushback from either political party.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you for the roundup on the city and state level. We've got Senator Larson here, who is one of the more innovative senators in Wisconsin. He introduces a lot of bills that I agree with, and they're forward-thinking bills. Senator Larson, what are you guys talking about, or what are you thinking about in terms of not only what Wisconsin can do, but what else can states do that they're not doing to push back on Trump that you're thinking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the states are pushing back, they're doing the right thing on a number of different ways, particularly on dollars, right? So that's a big piece of it for sure, as Ben had kind of mentioned. But also pushing back on folks who have undermined elections. We know that in Wisconsin, Ron Johnson played a particularly close role in trying to overturn the 2020 election, something that gets ignored a lot. And so the more that we can point to the fact that he was trying to do that, the better. The other folks who are trying to go in as fake electors, I think, is important. Cleta Mitchell, who's a conservative election lawyer, she played a key role in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. She could be prosecuted under state law for conspiracy to interfere with elections. Right now, state attorneys generally have this authority that they're not quite using yet. States could use their own terrorism statutes against ICE misconduct. Several states have terrorism laws broad enough to cover organized campaigns of intimidation, unlawful detention, and coercive enforcement. It's pretty clear considering what they're doing. It's a lot of times what the Trump administration is accusing others of is the thing that they are doing. So as they're accusing Alex Preddy of domestic terrorism, at that same time, the things that they were doing of targeting civilians demonstrates that. So going after ICE for common sense things. I know you've talked about New Mexico before. Not sure how much time we've got, but also the fact that holding federal tax dollars in escrow as we approach April 15th California, New York, Illinois, Minnesota send billions. We do too. We're a net donor to the federal government. Actually, most blue states are. This is a big chip. It's worth starting to explore behind the scenes, but opposing a lot of what the Trump administration is up to at every single level. It's every single time it's going to instigate more people to get involved and recognize the power that they've got. The Iran war that we have unilaterally declared is a good cause to be able to get people to sit up straight and say that they reject everything that they're trying to do. It just came across the wire. You know, we're doing math live here, but I just got a notification that the Trump administration is looking for $200 billion as a supplemental for their Iran excursion. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, not great.
No.
Not great. That's obscene. That's an obscene number this early. That's obscene.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
A year after the Doge boys were squeezing PBS and Big Bird, trying to say that they were saving dollars. Now they are spending. They're looking at $200 billion for what? An endless war. So that those kind of things spark people to get involved in a way that's pretty damn clear. That other things they might not get off the couch for.
Okay, great. So, these are the things that, we have our senators. We got to keep calling our senators, Tammy Baldwin, anybody else who's listening, our Democratic senators, to hold the line on funding DHS. Wisconsin could be doing more. We could be emulating New Mexico. We could be divesting our public resources like New York and California, and we're only going to be doing that if we flip the majority of our state legislature. All these places are all these states have both their governor and their legislatures on board, which we have to do in Wisconsin to get there. But the most important thing that Senator mentioned was holding our federal tax dollars in escrow until we have safe elections. And so we're going to dig into that in our next segment, and I'm going to let Patty take it away for the radio listeners, and we can all think about that in the next segment.
Well, I appreciate that, because I want to thank our listeners on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, as well as KKNW 1150 in Seattle. You're tuning in here on the Up North podcast, broadcasting out of WCPT 820 in Chicago. You can also watch some of the live stream, but we're broadcasting this on Substack. So folks want to know where they can watch it right now. We are broadcasting on Substack. And thank you to our sponsors, of course, Minocqua Brewing Company. Please subscribe to that Substack and go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. Perhaps put an order for some progressive brew. Pride Coffee Roasters.com, Source.solar, and Are You Really Winning? March is Gambling Awareness Month. More after this on WCPT.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive Beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells Progressive Beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive Beer, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC Hop Water. 0 alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC Hop Water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. That's thc.MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Brewing Company, who sells progressive beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get progressive beer delivered to your door every month, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. for our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MinocquaMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com and use the promo code UpNorth.
WCPT from TuneIn.
And we are back with the Up North podcast. Take it away, Kirk.
Okay, everybody, we are back in this next segment. We are going to talk about taxes and ways that more creative people than me are talking about potentially how to resist by not paying our taxes. I'm not creating this out of a bubble. There is a foundation who's been doing this for 40 years called the we'll talk about NWTRCC. I don't know what what an acronym is now. We'll talk about it soon enough. But also lots of folks. Chris Armitage, who's just a wonderful kind of strategist for the resistance, has laid out a lot of different ways that we can think about resisting by withholding taxes. Now, why would we withhold taxes from the federal government? Again, Senator Larson went through it last segment, but all these blue states, especially New York and California, they contribute billions. I mean, vastly more amounts of federal tax dollars to the federal government than most red states do. But Trump has turned around and he's sent ICE into these cities and he's terrorizing their people. And he's also withholding grants, not only to New York, California, but even Wisconsin, UW Wisconsin. He's withholding grants that have already been approved. We have to sue to get them back. But until we win in court, we don't have that money to use, and we get hurt by that. So why would blue states, and I'll talk about in a second, why would individuals pay taxes to a government who's turning around and using those tax dollars to terrorize us, to potentially disappear us into concentration camps? The logic doesn't make a lot of sense. So first of all, I'm going to talk about, we talked about the state level, not paying tax at the state level. And we're going to talk about the mechanisms of that in the next segment, but it's basically holding federal tax dollars in escrow until certain conditions are met. I would argue the biggest condition is to make sure that we have free and fair elections in November. And so I would hold the escrow money until not give it to the federal government until those elections take place and are deemed, non-chaotic and non-screwed with. Now, the second thing I want to bring up is something that it's hard to believe that Governor Evers in Wisconsin, or even Governor Pritzker would go so far as to hold federal tax dollars in escrow. I mean, it seems a little bit wild. It's a wild idea right now. It's on the fringe right now. We're bringing it up because that's what I do. I bring up fringe ideas because I think they're logical. But will they ever get done? Arguably, it's hard to see that happening. But the thing that individuals can do, and what a huge influencer in Chicago, her name is Rachel Cohen. She blew up last week, and she was written about in The Guardian last week because she said she wasn't going to pay her federal taxes, and she went through a litany of the reasons, why she did that, and what the recourse was for doing that, and we'll talk about some of the penalties, but she's making the movement happen, and The Guardian is kind of like making this thought of resisting by not paying your federal income taxes something that people can do. So first of all, let's go back, Ben. Let's talk about the states for a second. Why? I know that you've been thinking about this. There are other instances in the federal government where states have kind of just ignored certain edicts from the federal government that are similar to potentially ignoring the need to have to pay your taxes or like right away, or not being able to hold them in escrow. Can you let us know what some of these are?
Yeah, I mean, I think a really obvious one, and one that impacted me personally, was Real ID. For 18 years, it technically was required. I got my Real ID in October, and that was only because my Pennsylvania ID expired after I had lived here for a couple years. Really no punishment at any point at any time when I was pulled over or used a non-Real ID, whether it was Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, didn't matter. Another very obvious example is with marijuana. You got it illegal on the federal level with states not necessarily imposing their will or following that law, I should say, on a regular basis outside of our Quaker state of Wisconsin, of course. We're still stuck in the past time there. But nevertheless, there's definitely examples for it to work in principle. Although, I mean, as I mentioned in the chat, I am skeptical on how this would play out because I do think it would, not from a legal perspective, but from a tit for tat perspective. I think we'd be opening a can of worms that a lot of us don't have any time for. But that's just my take on that matter.
All right. So I want to open this up for discussion because, this is not just stuff that everyone's talking about. This is kind of a new thing. So, Patty, you might be hearing about this for the first time. I don't know. I mean,
I follow Rachel Cohen, and it's funny because go ahead. You finish your thought.
No,
first.
Go for it. What do you think about holding taxes back at the state and the individual level?
Okay, so I mean, we do have to talk about these at the same time. I mean, I remember watching Rachel Cohen and thinking, well, that would be nice for you. That it does seem like a privilege to be able to, she knows the law very well. She can make these arguments. It seems like she has the money. I know she was fired from her law firm for the work that she was doing. So let me the state escrow model. I had to do a little more research on it. They're making the same moral claim, right? I will not fund unconstitutional conduct. And by the way, these are the arguments I know over 10 years ago when I found out that we were a donor state and that most of the red states are welfare states, that we pay more into federal government than we get back for services. And that goes to a lot of the programs in red states. And Illinois is don't even get me started on where we are with disability services. But the difference is the scale of risk, right? Risk distribution. And that's a big problem. And when a state does it, it's spread across the entire state. Rachel Cohen does it, and it's she's absorbing that personally, but not everybody has it. They don't have maybe a high yield savings account that they have $8,000 or whatever amount of money that can give them that protection. And tax resistance requires a financial cushion. That's all I'm trying to say. And I don't think a lot of people have that. And I think it's scary for a lot of folks. You sign that document and it says, I'm signing this to the best of my knowledge. I hope I don't go to jail. That's how I sign my taxes every year. I don't know about you guys.
Chris, what do you think about this? You're the most at risk talking about not doing what the government wants you to do, given your position as a state senator. So I understand that, but maybe philosophically, what are your thoughts on these ideas of how to resist?
I mean, that was the impetus for Henry David Thoreau's Civil Disobedience, where he refused to pay his taxes and wrote an essay on it and promptly was arrested. But it inspired folks to say, like, look, it part of being a citizen in a democracy requires the consent of the governed, right? That's what makes us a civil society. And if we've gotten to this point where people can say whatever the hell they want during election season, and then if they're elected, they can do whatever they want. And the only recourse is to then next time around say, okay, well, we're going to vote that person out, as was outlined, right? Like what they're trying to do now with requiring just super standards for who can vote. And there's always been extra hurdles put up for folks throughout the decades. It's pretty clear that they have rigged this entire system in favor of the wealthy, right? Like the folks that the original colonists were rebelling against, the big money that was trying to corrupt the new land, like they've taken over. And if the governed need to figure that out and unite and say that this is not all right, I do think that we still have democratic means to be able to counter that. Pushing back against this war, I think, is a big one, right? Because they're going to need funds to do that. They've already overspent their budget. Pushing back on new money for DHS and for ICE is another big place to do that. And those are things that are a little bit more bite-sized. And then, of course, of doing disinvestment in these institutions that are supporting the president are ways to do that. But if it's going to be something that happens, you do have to build up the resistance. You do have to get people to understand that they have a lot of power that has been hidden from them, basically since the Reagan administration came along and said, you are on your own. You can't rely on anyone else. Everyone else is against you. Do it by yourself. And so it does kind of require people to recognize, like, you're stronger when you're in community. You can do more with others. And by doing that, by pushing back against a tyrannical government that's, that may be taking up the draft and sending boots on the ground just to get more money into Jared Kushner's bank account. I think it's a good line in the sand for us.
Excellent. Folks, we're going to take a break here. We are continuing the Up North podcast. I don't know. I get so nervous when I think about taxes, but this is such a compelling conversation. I hope you'll continue to join us on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, and KTNF AM 950. More in a moment.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MinocquaMarketplace.com and go to apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Minocqua Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MinocquaMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. We get it. Your liver is under constant attack. Alcohol is a dictator that takes away your freedom. It distracts while doing its dirty work. It weakens your judicial system and governing bodies. If you give it too much power, you'll never be the same. We have the solution. 8647 THC Hop Water. Zero alcohol, 0 calories, tastes like patriotism. 8647 THC Hop Water. Liberate your liver. Buy 8647 THC Hop Water and Joint Session, our THC Orange Cooler, by going to thc.minocquabrewingcompany.com. That's thc.minocquabrewingcompany.com. The Minocqua Brewing Company is excited to partner with Brouhaha Coffee to create woke coffee. Get woke, go broke. That's what they say, right? Au contraire, mon frère. This gourmet coffee was awarded 2025 Roast of the Year at the Coffee Break Festival in Wisconsin, and it comes in both medium and dark roasts. Support our political action and enjoy fabulous coffee at the same time. For our Up North podcast listeners, go to the MinocquaMarketplace.com, find coffee under the beverage tab, and type in Up North to get 10% off your order. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com and use the promo code UpNorth. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MinocquaMarketplace.com and go to apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth.
We are back with the Up North podcast. We are thrown off a little bit because we have a little bit of a mechanical issue. I probably pressed the wrong button at some point, but it's the Up North podcast. We're continuing our conversation about taxes and how withholding them, whether it's state or personal, is a way to protest and hold our country accountable. Kirk, take it away.
Okay, we're going to talk about the mechanics of how this might happen, both at the federal and personal level in a second. But I wanted to follow up on something that Ben was talking about earlier. Ben, you mentioned a tit-for-tat potential war that states versus the federal government could get into because the federal government still gives us a lot of services. My argument, I will posit that when they're sending ICE to terrorize us and disappear people, and when they're already cutting off grant money, to us, they've already started that tit for tat, and this would be the tat. But tell me more about what you were thinking. I want to get your thoughts fully on this.
So there's no denying the fact that blue states are the purveyors of the tax dollars. I don't think there's any way to circumvent that. But if you guys haven't noticed, we have a stupid president, and that stupid president decided to engage in a war with Iran without realizing that they very easily could withhold the energy, and that throws everything into a flux. As much as we are the exporters of tax dollars, we are the importer of energy services in a lot of ways from Texas, from red areas, and with the assistance of the federal government. And to be perfectly frank, you don't need to tempt the Republicans with cutting social programs. Like, they'll do that even when the tax dollars are there. So the idea of withholding the tax dollars, what Trump and that administration would make sure is funded? ICE. and the things that we are absolutely trying to push back against. And what's going to go to the wayside is Medicare or whatever the situation is. There's an element of this when you're planning this kind of stuff, you have to plan for inevitable outcomes. And I think a very obvious lever, if I were in a red state, the first thing I would do is shut off the energy supply. So that's kind of the way that I look at it there. And we really are dependent on each other.
Yeah, so I love it. I mean, we're war playing right now, how we could really screw each other up, and obviously none of this happens without thinking of recourses. I would just counter, if we're holding federal money in escrow, we can use it to fund the stuff they're cutting off. Like if they do that to us,
we need the avenue. Like, we don't have the oil rigs, we don't have the solar plants, whatever the thing is. Like, we could buy it from another country maybe, but we definitely couldn't generate it.
I hear you. So I think I'm hoping that you're giving me fodder for what I research next in my next essay, Ben. But
nice.
I want to get back to the mechanics of why this could happen at both the federal and the personal level. So the federal level, we already hold like states collect taxes from businesses, and they hold it to pay, and then they remit those taxes to the federal government. I believe that's true. I know that taxes are withheld, Social Security taxes are withheld from, and I have to hold them, and I give them to somebody, right? And that goes to the federal government somewhere. So there is a mechanism that it passes through, I think the state. So it seems like, holding something in escrow, holding taxes in escrow functionally could happen. The personal model, and we've looked into this and done a little research, and I'm the only one that I feel comfortable reading this because I don't want to put anybody else, I'm happy if the federal government goes after me, but here is the functional way. And I'm not saying that you should do this. I'm saying just for entertainment purposes, if one wanted to do this, here is how they might do it. First of all, one should always file their taxes because but not pay the taxes. Filing the penalties for not filing are vastly higher than just not paying them and just letting it sit for a while, maybe until the Trump administration is over, or at least until the House has overtaken the majority. The Democrats have overtaken the majority. The penalty is 5% for failure to file. It's 5% of unpaid taxes per month, and it's capped at 25% of your total liability. So that could be a very high chunk of money very quickly. But the failure to pay the penalty, the failure to pay penalty is only 0.5% per month. So it's going to take years for you to rack up, a sizable bill of your taxes, and ultimately Doge fired a huge chunk of people in the IRS, and so they don't have a ton of agents left to come after you, especially if you're a small fish. A small fish times a million small fish is a big chunk of taxes, but you're still small. So definitely file, but potentially don't pay. And then filing and not paying is a federally recognized posture. It's how corporations routinely operate when they dispute tax liability. The IRS will send you letters. They might place liens on your property, and they can garnish wages or seize assets. But that's not going to happen until they send you a cajillion letters. By the way, I've been sued a lot in my day, and you get nasty grams for a year before they actually start doing anything that can bite. And we're talking about a resistance here that only lasts, hopefully, up to next year or the next 3. So these are some of the ways, and we'll give you some links to how you can look into this further down the road. But Patty, can you talk to us about some more of these penalties and stuff that 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 you might happen if you choose not to pay your taxes.
Yes, as you mentioned, the 0.5% of unpaid taxes per month, capped at 25%. And the interest currently is 7% annually. I'm sorry, I get so stressed. I do want to let folks that we are informing you. We're having an informational conversation. What you choose to do is entirely up to you.
That's why I told you to talk about the penalties, Patty, because
Yes.
you're warning people not to do this. Obviously, we're not telling people to do this. We're just saying this is what people are writing about, and you're
Yes.
warning them about the risks, which is
Yes.
absolutely responsible of you.
This is what you are risking should you participate in this form of protest. The IRS collection timeline typically begins with automated letters, then a lien on your credit, then potential levy. And they can whether it's either a wage garnishment or bank seizure. This process can take years for many cases. And criminal prosecution for non-payment is a federal misdemeanor carrying a maximum of $25,000 and potential jail time. Actual prosecution for good faith civil disobedience as opposed to fraud is historically, but we are living in historic times, so who knows if it's not this time is all I'm saying. It is historically rare. The long-term consideration that you should take is that the government can seize assets from your U.S. bank accounts. If you are planning sustained long-term resistance, consult a counselor from NWTRCC. That's N as in Nancy, WTRCC, about asset planning, including whether keeping funds outside the United States banking institutions makes sense for your situation.
Okay, we've just gotten deep into the weeds of tax resistance. Ben, what do you think about? Would you do this? Is this something you would ever think about doing?
Me personally, hypothetically, I could kick the idea around, but I mean, you know me, I speak on behalf of the millennials and Gen Z that clear $200 every month, and I'd be hard pressed to tell them oh yeah, what's a cash penalty to a certain population, and maybe that's by design. The life that I have, it most certainly could be there. I'm not saying I would do it, but you definitely lay out a compelling rationale for it at the very least.
So I'm going to say, I'm going to put it out there right now. I have told my accountants, to put our federal taxes payments on hold until at least the elections in November. And I'm willing to pay the fines, but I got a feeling, maybe people are going to hear this right now and they're going to go tell the Republican Party, and, they're going to then call somebody who's really going to keep an eye on our taxes. And I'm fine with that. And I'm willing to pay those fines because I will not certainly, I can't pay money to see them turn around and use it against citizens like they are. So the Minocqua Brewing Company will not be paying its federal taxes this year. I'm gonna put that out there right now.
And I am W-2, so I really wouldn't have the option, even if that were the case, because I get money. I feel like I would just be screwing myself over at that point.
Oh, so you say you get refund? You get a refund every year?
Yeah, I'm W-2. Yeah, so
Not everybody who's W-2 gets a refund. I'm just saying.
Is that accurate? Chris, you're nodding your head. Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, okay. I have a tax return. Yes.
Nice. All right. So Ben's buying beers after April 15th. It's good to know.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Drinks on Ben.
Yeah.
I was broke too. Well, I was broke when I was an opera singer in New York, and I remember my tax refund was snagged because of a legal thing that I was into, and I thought I was getting a refund, and the government just took it, and I had to take a staycation that year, and I had to cancel a week in Cancun because I had zero money. So Ben, just make sure you don't have any liens on you or anything.
Oh no, yeah, I'm straight on that front. We're good to go there.
Okay, Chris, give us your 2 cents on, what in theory, does this make sense for anybody? to resist.
If I don't give you my 2 cents, will you send the federal authorities after me?
You are.
No, I did.
You got a bigger target on your back than.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what I am doing, and that is right now we have a $2.5 billion surplus at the state, and I've been encouraging our governor for the last year and a half to not spend and to hold, so that we are not coerced and blackmailed by the federal government, by the Trump administration into doing illegal and horrible things, right? Of like turning over voter rolls, of where they have cut off funds to Medicaid recipients, where they have cut off food share and things like that. So having that level of flexibility, if and when it gets to the point where the feds decide to actually, I guess if we're looking at this as a battle, fire the first shot where they start to hold back federal dollars. And then I think the things that you're outlining are good to have on paper to counter, right? But I do think in the case of trying to be able to get the public sympathy or empathy, which is my job, I work for my 178,000 bosses, so I have to make sure they're on board. They would have to understand exactly what's going on. And I can tell you confidently right now that most of them are not to the level that Kirk Bangstad is at.
Great. Okay, I think we're going to take a break right now, Patty Wright, and we will come back with some what you can do's.
Yes, let's do that. We'll be right back. And when we come back, I wanted to write this up. I promise it's not as scary. I know that I've been making it scary. We're just having a conversation, and we're going to walk you exactly through what tax resistance looks like in practice, the penalties, the timeline, the history. Well, we're going to talk about the, what's the name of the organization? It's a long one. The National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee here on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal and KKNW in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and KTNF AM 950. That was the one. KKNW in Seattle, KTNF AM 950. Seattle, more in St. Paul. You know what I mean. Bye.
Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of the money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of Progressive Beer. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells Progressive Beer all throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and online to about 30 states. Never seen it? That's likely because we've been banned by distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy Progressive Beer, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click the Retail Locations tab. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Retail Locations. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Marketplace, or what we like to call the Amazon for progressives. Every product sold on the Minocqua Marketplace is made by a company that's pledged to never donate money to the MAGA movement. There's over 60 companies on our marketplace, and we sell everything from nuts to detergents to doormats. Save democracy with your wallet by shopping only at MinocquaMarketplace.com. For Up North podcast listeners, save 10% on any order in the store by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth. The Up North podcast is sponsored by the Minocqua Brewing Company, who sells Progressive Beer online across the country. If you like the show today, please consider buying one of our beer subscription packages for yourself or a loved one. You can subscribe to the Democrat, the Liberal, and the Progressive, which delivers four packs of beer to your door for 6 months, a year, or 2 years. To find where you can subscribe to get Progressive Beer delivered to your door every month, go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. That's MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and click Progressive Beer. Believe it or not, this podcast takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make Kirk & Company look like they know what they're doing. And a lot of money that goes to pay our producers and editors comes from the sale of our Progressive t-shirts. The Minocqua Brewing Company sells t-shirts to supplement our beer sales because we've been banned by beer distributors for our unapologetically progressive voice. To find where you can buy our t-shirts, go to MinocquaMarketplace.com and go to Apparel. For Up North podcast listeners, get 10% off on all of our merch by going to MinocquaMarketplace.com and typing in promo code UpNorth. That's MinocquaMarketplace.com, promo code UpNorth.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
And we are back with the Up North podcast as we continue the very stressful conversation about taxes. You thought it was stressful before. Now you can use it as resistance, and we'll tell you how, why, and maybe why not. Take it away, Kirk Bangstad.
Okay, so Senator Larson, we had to go to commercial, but what you started saying in the last segment, I wanted to revisit. So, and you've been telling me that you're worried that, and tell me if I'm saying something out of turn. You're worried. I mean, we have a surplus right now. Wisconsin has got what's our surplus, Chris? Unmute.
My screen froze and I just got back, so I missed the entire question.
What's our surplus right now? I've
$2.5 billion.
How much?
2.5 billion with a B.
So we got $2.5 billion surplus, and we got a lot of that money, if I'm not mistaken, during COVID. And the Republican state legislature has refused to allow Governor Evers to spend any of that money for the last 5 years. So we have $2.5 billion in a surplus, which I'm worried about, which Governor Evers cannot be counted on necessarily to keep that money. But we're talking about withholding tax dollars to the federal government, if they're hurting us. And if we had a governor who realized that a state might need extra money in order to fund the services that the federal government might cut off if we don't obey them, or we might need money to buy our own gas if we decide not to pay federal tax dollars. Oh my gosh, we got $2.5 billion in a reserve that we could use if we had to fight back against our own federal government. Chris, wouldn't that be wise if we kept that? Right.
I think right now there is a conversation that's happening between the governor and Republican leaders, and there's a rumor that all three of them are going to be gone. Two have confirmed that they're not going to be here next year. The third, the Senate leader, is rumored to be leaving. And so there is a real worry that they decide to come up with some type of a deal to spend that money. And there are a lot of us who are proposing just to pause, to say, let's hold on to this. So as people are figuring out the scheme of things, it does make a lot of sense to say, you know what, there's a lot of uncertainty out there. Let's just hold off. And frankly, the best case scenario is in Wisconsin, we are on track to be to get a trifecta of retaining the governorship, of having a new Democratic governor who is more in touch with the people, of turning the state Senate, which got even closer yesterday. Another retirement was announced of a targeted seat. And then in the assembly, we're just 5 seats away. And some of those seats were just hundreds of votes away. So if there is a blue tidal wave, then at the very least, it makes sense that Democrats have control where they can spend that money. But for the sake of your argument, yeah, I think it's better to make sure that we are holding that money in almost an escrow. And then on top of that, we actually do have a rainy day fund. So just preparing for the worst, because that sure seems like a valid prediction these days in 2026.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And it makes absolutely no sense to me how the governor could possibly be entertaining giving that federal money away before he leaves and before we know what Trump might do to us. So that's something that is new to me, Chris, as of tonight, and it's something that I think we got to probably talk about more. We've got a lot of Democrats who listen to the show, a lot of Democrats who can write in to Governor Evers and dissuade him from doing anything like that. Just because he wants a good eulogy on his headstone that he gave money back to folks, while he was governor. I don't think that's good enough right now. Anyways, let's go back to. I want to be able to. Amy, can you put this slide on the show for everybody? So we talked about tax resistance. Well, this is not in a void. This has been since 1982, the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee. They probably make it a bad acronym on purpose, just so it's harder to find, but it's a resistance acronym on its own. But the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee has been around since 1982. Even Joan Baez didn't pay her taxes when the Vietnam War was happening. And they've been a central hub for tax resistance in the United States, and they coordinate tax resistors across the country. They offer training, legal referrals, and community support. So and this was in the Guardian article that talked about Rachel Cohen's protest. In January, they got 110,000 unique visitors to their website. They say it's the highest interest level in the organization's history. So this might sound like a fringe kind of thing, but it's growing. The idea is growing. They're getting a lot of hits. And what I wanted to say is, you can go to these the national office. There's a Madison, Wisconsin area contact. There's all of these URLs that you can go to and you can email. But one of the things you're going to get once you go to their website is you're going to get, the how-to guides. And I wanted to briefly talk about some of these how-tos, which kind of would spark some of your ideas in your mind. So, apparently, you can withhold all or a portion of your federal income taxes, throughout the year. If you pay quarterly, you should withhold them, and the starting point should be $10.40, $10.40. 1040, I believe, is the symbol for this, and this has been around longer. This has been around for over 40 years, so a lot of people know more about it than we do. You're going to adjust your W-4 to reduce withholding throughout the year, so you can control your own money. You to redirect withheld taxes to a community fund, mutual aid organization, or alternative fund in your area. You file on paper instead of electronically. This legally slows the system down. So they have to pick up your paper. They have to put it in a thing. They have to input it into a computer. All resistance stuff we've been talking about throughout the year has basically said, if the federal government's coming down on you hard, throw sand in their gears. We can't win because they have the army on their side, and they have the IRS on their side. But you can slow them down. And if you throw sand in the gears and, filing with paper throws sand in their gears. You can send a protest letter to the IRS with your filing, forming a war tax resistance affinity group with neighbors. So you talk to your friends about it. You organize like you organize everything else. Those are some of the things you'll find if you go to these websites here on ways to kind of tax resistance. Patty, what else is there in some of these contacts that people can look up?
Yeah. And I know that sounds compelling to some of the listeners because people want to have something to do. There is a nationwide network of counselors who can help you understand your options and connect you with attorneys who have experience handling tax resistance cases. We're talking again about the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee. The NWTRCC also administers the War Tax Resistors Penalty Fund, a mutual aid fund that reimburses resistors for IRS imposed penalties and interest, not the tax itself. Just so you understand, since 1982, the fund has paid out approximately $250,000 to support resistors who face IRS collection. So, I mean, I didn't even realize this was happening, Kirk. I was not familiar with this.
So you just gave me an idea. We can sell a tax beer, and the proceeds can go to the bank that helps people pay their fines.
There you go.
There's got to be a way we can do this. Ben, do you have any thought? Oh, Ben took off. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, Ben, talk to me. I think this is, do you think this is fringe or not fringe?
I mean, I definitely don't think it's fringe. I think it makes sense in principle. Logistically, I understand where it's coming from, but I just, like I always say, I think it's a matter of ginning up enough support for it. Are people in the right mind state to try and get there? I think there's a lot of variables going into it here. And again, with every passing day, we really didn't even talk about it. With the resignation of that Joe, what's his face from the counterterrorism unit, that dude's diehard. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that dude's diehard MAGA. And if you lose somebody like that, what do you think's like? So I love the idea, but I like being prepared. I like these mind games of just thinking about it. But I think I'm optimistic these days. I'll tell you what, I'm optimistic these days.
I hear you. I'm optimistic too that this Iran war will give us enough headwinds to even avoid a coordinated attempt to steal our elections from us because things are going so badly.
Weird thing to be optimistic for, but yeah.
I know, I was going to say, it was weirdly phrased.
Yeah.
Don't clip that quote.
Yes, thank you. Unclip it. Thank you so much. We've got to wrap up, you guys. It was another episode of the Up North podcast. I want to thank Senator Chris Larson of Wisconsin, Ben Cominos, the host of Outside the Box on WHBY. You can download the app, I guess.
And it's on YouTube now. Read the thing.
It's on YouTube as well. And of course, Kirk Banks, our fearless leader. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you to our sponsors, Pride Coffee Roasters, Solar, Monaco Brewing Company, of course, and Are You Really Winning? Love you, Lady B. Good night, everybody.
1, 2, 3.